Thank you for joining our African applications tips. I'm really happy that you can join us today. My name is Sarah Lou. I'm part of the MBA recruitment and admissions team, and I am here. I've been doing this for around 6 years now, and my main focus is to help people put their best application forward when it comes to the Oxford programme. Now, you're not really going to hear from me today. We have an amazing panel which is lined up who you're really going to hear from. But before we start, we will be doing questions at the end, but you are more than welcome, feel confident just to start putting them in the Q&A box, and we will get to those at the very end. So as we start, I want us to begin to introduce our panel. And if maybe Jessie, you can go first and then go on to the next person. Maybe you can just tell us your name, where you're from, and then also what you was doing before the MBA and what you're hoping to do after the MBA. Over to you.
All right, perfect, Sarah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse. I'm from Ghana and pursuing my MBA here at Oxford. Before the MBA, I was working in impact investment banking here in London. Before that, I did that in Africa. And post-MBA, still figuring things out, but likely moving to the buy side where I'm looking to focus more on making investments in Africa. It's a pleasure to meet you and looking forward to the school.
That's great. Thank you very much. Anyone can go next. It's up to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha. I'm from South Africa. And before the MBA, I was in audit, and from audit, I moved to management consulting. I'm hoping to pivot into impact investing post-MBA. Now I'll hand over to Jibs to introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ajibola. I'm from Nigeria. And before the MBA, I was a management consultant at PwC. For about 5 years. And after that, I moved to infrastructure investing for the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund for another 4 years. And then post-MBA, I think I'm still trying to figure that out. Say that I go back to, private equity or impact investing full time. Thank you. I'll move it to Lorinda now.
Thanks, Jibs. Hi, everyone. My name is Lorinda. I'm from Cameroon. I've been living in Canada for the past 8 years. Before the MBA, I was working in strategy consulting at McKinsey, focusing on large-scale transformation programs and decarbonization strategy. And post-MBA, I'm also still figuring it out, but I think I want to focus more on the energy transition space. So happy to talk about that later on with you guys. And I'll pass it on to Moshood.
Hi, everyone. I'm Makhubele. I'm from Nigeria. Before the MBA, I was working in healthcare consulting space, supporting government and organizations to improve healthcare access for underserved communities in Africa. Post-MBA, I'm really looking forward to roles that explore the intersection between finance and health, looking at how we can finance healthcare systems better in Africa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul-Antoine. I'm French, so you might be wondering what am I doing in this call. But actually, if I'm in this call, is that I spent the 9 last years in West Africa sourcing cocoa beans to make chocolate. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope I will be able to stay in the food industry after my MBA. And yeah, I'm trying to make the food industry a bit more responsible and sustainable.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, guys. Okay, so as you know, we have a focus on the African continent. So Jesse, can you tell us a little bit more about the African Alliance?
Thank you, Sarah Lou. So as you did mention, yes, I think Oxford has a very strong focus on Africa. And this is not just a talk. I'm sure some of you have already done your research on other business schools. And when you look at Oxford in particular, that translates into real action like the African Business Alliance. Essentially, what the African Business Alliance is, it's a platform that essentially helps to stimulate conversations within the business space, within the investment space, and in entrepreneurship in Africa. to all of us on this call, part of this alliance. And basically, part of its objectives is utilizing insight from faculty, students, and from the big Oxford ecosystem, sort of to translate business perspective into Africa. Part of it, again, is to really connect thought leaders on the continent to Oxford and to the broader Oxford ecosystem for synergies, for engagement, and for different opportunities. Personally, I did mention I worked in Impact Investment Bank. On the side, I also invest in early stage tech companies, and I know of companies within the Oxford communities that do some work in Africa that have benefited from such relationships. I think another big part of the Oxford Africa Business Alliance is to educate students about Africa. So this is not an alliance just specific to African students going to Oxford, but then also for other nationalities interested in the continent, either for educational purposes, either for research, either for career opportunities. And the Africa Business Alliance essentially works as a sort of a bridge to connect these two activities. And I think another really important part is to really empower the future and current entrepreneurs in Africa. And I know maybe throughout this conversation, you hear a lot about entrepreneurship. Oxford is very keen on that. And what the Africa Business Alliance also seeks to do is to really boost that effort by encouraging our current entrepreneurs within the business school to help them grow their businesses, to help them connect them to investors and other partners, but also to encourage other entrepreneurs in Africa, prospective applicants, to also connect to the ecosystem within Oxford to help grow and expand their businesses. And I think maybe the last bit I'd like to just quickly highlight on is to incorporate Africa-focused activities into the curriculum at the business school. So I can quickly mention there are certain courses or electives that are specific to the African continent. Some of us are already keen on taking some of them, like they're doing business in Africa in the Hillary term next year, which promises to be quite exciting based off of feedback and stuff we've already heard. And other programs which are very, very unique and tailored to people with a big interest in Africa. So in a nutshell, what the Africa Business Alliance seeks to do is to really serve as a bridge to connect the continent of Africa with the university. And I think over the last couple of years, we've done a really great job at that. And the flagship program which the Africa Business Alliance hosts is called the African Business Forum, which happens during around March, April every year. It's a big event where it sort of convenes all stakeholders, academics, researchers, prospective students, business people, politicians into one room to talk about continent, to talk about very topical subjects, but also serves as a networking opportunity for different people to come together to share ideas. So I think there's a really interesting alliance that we are part of, and we're always seeking to sort of improve and increase the African numbers within not just the MBA program, but within Oxford as well. So, I mean, I'll stop here, and if there are any more questions, I can take those specific ones.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jesse. And we're going to talk a little bit about the application process. Obviously, there's many challenges that people face when applying. That could be around fees, GMAT, the culture, etc. Could maybe one of you speak about the challenges that you did face, one or two of you, sorry, speak about the challenges that you did face and how you overcame them?
Yeah, I'll speak about the challenge around the GMAT. I think everyone's smiling because I think that's really a challenge for all of us. Starting to study for the GMAT, I thought, yeah, these are things that I know. These are things that I know from high school. I can do this. And I wrote my first test and I did terribly until I actually realized that it's actually about learning the test and giving yourself time. It feels like intuitively you should just do well because maybe also you've done well previously from high school, from university, and also it's content that you know, but actually there are ways to improve on your knowledge around how to take the test. So I would say give yourself the time to prepare for the GMAT. I wrote it 3 times before I got to a space where I got a good enough score. But it's just around the patience and also the time to prepare. Don't be afraid to ask for help as well. Just ensuring that there are programs that you can actually look at on YouTube or even Target Test Prep, Magoosh, that can help you practice as much as possible just to see where your gaps are.
Anyone else can share a little bit about any challenges that they face?
I mean, I completely share your point, Natasha. I also struggled a lot with the GMAT, and yeah, I took it 5 times. So so you should. I mean, I think, like you said, Natasha, the most important thing is to give yourself time and take regular tests and study regularly also and try to build confidence. I think at the end it's really about like you said, Natasha, knowing the test and building confidence. And at the end of the day, also, if you take it multiple times, don't worry. I mean, it also shows resilience, which I think is something that the school will appreciate. So commitment and resilience. So that's why I took it 5 times.
100%, it does show resilience. Well done. Okay, so maybe we can speak a little bit about funding. Another obviously challenge for some people. Could maybe one or two of you share how you went about funding a few scholarships maybe that you can share about, and also maybe if you had to self-fund, self-invest, please do share and let us know.
Okay. So I think I can speak to funding and how I personally went about it, especially on the scholarship side of things, because I think for me, the minute I knew, or the moment I knew I was going to take, my MBA, I think the next thing for me was how do I, fund this? And then I started researching. I wrote all the names of the scholarship associated with Oxford. I wrote the other, means, which is just financing it via loans. And so I applied to all the scholarships, actually. I made sure I read the eligibility criteria, and then I looked out for the ones, I think Oxford, I have a list of them, maybe about 10 or 7 to 10. And then I just went through everything and selected the ones that I was eligible for in terms of where I'm from, in terms of whatever the requirements were. I think there was one that, and then following that, I applied to everything. So at the same time I was writing my essay, I was also writing essays for the scholarship. So I think it's also a timing thing. And I think on the essays as well, I think further down we can still speak to that, but I would just jump into the essay part, which is be very real. Don't, because you can tell, even right now, on the program, when you speak to 1 or 2 people, you can just see that the reason why they are here, like they are meant to be here. You can hear from their experiences, from the things they share. So after selecting what scholarships you want to apply to, I think you now need to think about your story. Why do you really want to be here? Why would you want someone to fund you to be here? So I did all of that, got a few interviews, and then, yeah, I'm here. So 1 definitely worked, actually 2. So, and I think, we can talk about how that went further down, but I think the first thing is look at all the scholarships the school have. Which ones are you eligible for? And then also your other plan should be, what are the institutions you want to apply to for a loan? Because I also did that as well. I applied to a few for the loans, but yeah, so both is very needed when you're thinking about financing, and also your personal savings in addition to that, because you can also see how much it costs to do the MBA program. So cost of living, the tuition fee, and everything associated with it. It's always good to plan ahead for all of that cost. Yeah, thank you.
Great. And anyone else? Jesse?
Yes, maybe just to quickly add, I think Jeff's made a very good point about planning ahead. And as much as I think we are all very excited and hopeful that we'll get scholarships, the reality is not everyone may get it. So think of alternate source of funding for your program, be it personal savings, families chipping in and whatnot. I think planning ahead of that it's very crucial. From my case, for instance, I'm married, I have a child, so there's additional complexity in there. And luckily I did get a scholarship. I was very last minute, and I'd already made the decision that I was actually applying for a loan. But having that at the back of your mind is important. And also, really, the deposit. For instance, I know a lot of us in Africa, it would be really hard to raise that maybe about $9,000 in deposit, but it's something that you need to think about as well, because in my case, I had to pay for the deposit with my own funds, and later that got reimbursed to me. So I think there's so many sort of nuances, but I think planning is crucial in this process.
Anyone else would like to share? No?
Just on the point of the scholarships as well, I think also really important again to pace yourself, especially because some of the scholarships have essays that you need to write. It's not all of them where when you are applying, you just select, I would like to be selected for this scholarship if I am eligible. Some of them you need to apply for. I was fortunate also to get a scholarship from the Laidlaw Foundation, which needs a separate application. So because you're so busy with the MBA essays, by the time you get to the scholarship application, you might feel that you're so exhausted from writing essays. And so the pacing is really important, to time your application around ensuring that you've got your MBA admission essays and then leaving room and time to also write scholarship essays as well.
Yeah, really good advice. Thank you for sharing. Oh, Paul, did you have something as well?
Yeah, maybe just one thing. I understand there is no scholarship for everyone, but also if you come from the African continent, or if you have like a big experience on the African continent, you will be one of the people, I think, with the biggest chance, because this is really something the school is looking for, talents from Africa. It's not really easy, not because there is no talent, but because it's very hard to manage to get them. So I really like what Jeep said about building a story about who you are, what you've done so far, what do you want to do, how you will contribute to the MBA, and focusing on that. It's true that there is also a lot of essays, but I mean, maybe in my personal experience, I felt that all these essays was also somehow linked. So it helped me when I was working on one essay, actually gave me idea on another essay. So a lot of complementarity. So I think it's all, these essays are indeed a bit of burden, but also an opportunity to think about the story you want to tell.
Yeah, that's really great. And especially around, owning your story, being authentic, 100% agree with that. Maybe we can hear from all of you in regards to what you think was why your application stood out, and any tips or advice when coming to applying. Because I believe I was in Nigeria last week. I spoke to some really great candidates, and I believe they're applying in stage 4. So it'd be really lovely to hear from you.
Okay, I think I'm gonna start. So I can't say there's a particular thing that made me stand out. The way I see the application is an entire package, and you have to make sure every part of the application really speaks to who you are and how that aligns with the Oxford MBA value. In my case, I'm a 1+1 scholar. I've done a master's in Oxford, and now I'm doing the MBA. So basically what I try to do is, when I was applying for the 1+1, how does my skill and what I want to do post-MBA, how does it align with these two courses, and how with these two courses improve me professionally, personally, to be able to achieve my post-MBA goals. That's kind of like the overarching guiding framework that I use to write my application. So beyond getting a good GRE score, beyond making sure your CV is well written and clearly written, in the essays, what I try to do is bring a sense of myself, a bit of myself, to make the whoever is reviewing my essay to know who I am as a person and how I fit into the Oxford community, I fit into the side community, and how I would contribute, not just take from the side community, how I would contribute, and how that would help me going forward in my post-MBA goals. So those were the things that I kind of used to guide all my essays that were written to discuss my career progression so far and what I want to do after, and how the MBA is really what I need to add the 1+1 MBA rather is really what I need to be able to achieve my post-MBA goals. So that would be my general advice. We can speak about specifics after this.
Amazing. I can take the next part of it. So I really echo what Moshood said, and I think speaking even to the scholarship side, I think authenticity was very what I was trying to put into my application. So the way I was saying it is, I really want Oxford to want me based on what I want to bring to the program. So I was trying to be as explicit as I could be in my letters, so that if I actually got selected, then I would be able to bring my full self and get the most out of the program. So I was trying to be very explicit about my accomplishment, what I was trying to get, what I was trying to learn. So I talked about specific courses, electives, even professors to some extent. But to echo again Moshood's point, it's not only about what you're trying to learn, it's also what you think you can bring to the class. So how does my past experiences actually will enhance the overall class experience? So trying to talk about what I did in the past, where I was coming from, and how I think that these elements could make me a candidate that would be able to contribute to the class to an extent where people will actually learn from me. So trying to make sure you capture all these elements in your application is really important.
So I think in just to add to that, I think in capturing as well, what is very important is you should be able to, just picture yourself as the person reading this application. I did that with lots of my friends. They were tired of me. I'll send it to them and say, just imagine you don't know me. What do you think? So it's kind of like a skill for storytelling, and you don't need to have it. You just need to make sure that everything is linked, right? Number one is, which is what Lorenda said and Moshood has said, you need to know what you want to tell. What is the story? Why are you applying to this? What you've done before, what you want the MBA to get out of it. I remember, researching the major courses in the first term. Which ones am I looking to get? I made mention of business finance, how it ties to what I'm doing, and how it ties to what I'm going to do post-MBA as well as an infrastructure investment specialist. So all of that is very important. And also, you shouldn't be too rigid, because there's also life outside of the class and what you want to learn. So they want to feel like you're a part of this, and there's everything in you that wants this, right? I remember how I also spoke about some challenges that I personally have, and how that also translates when it comes to society. So I wasn't all just going about the books and everything, but also because the reader needs to be able to picture who this person is. Maybe not totally, because that's what they'll find out in class, but they need to have an idea to want me to be a part of that class. And even when you join the program, you can tell when you talk to, someone from maybe Asia or another continent, you can tell why they're here. I remember having dinner with someone, and then he was telling us how he's writing a book. The intentionality, you can tell why he's on the program already. So most people, with the different things they are doing in terms of career-wise or social-wise, you can tell that, these are genuine people. My point is, they are looking for something for the combination of the class. So you should be able to make sure that your story, in as much as it's short, in terms of the essay, you're actually communicating a bit of all of this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, not to repeat anything that everyone has said, but really, I think the key thing is to be clear on your why. Why do you want to do this? How does it connect to what you've done before? And also, not being afraid to be vulnerable around maybe the skills that you think are missing or are lacking, because that goes into how the MBA can help you with that. So I remember on my side, I had pivoted before from audit into management consulting, and I was still feeling like there's something missing and wanting to pivot again. So just really being clear around my journey and why I really felt like I needed to do this MBA, how it connects, and how Oxford can help me in my journey of pivoting into impact investing. I think that that was a nice thread to include.
All right, thanks. So I try not to belabor the point here because I think there's a common theme or thread, which is to be authentic to yourself. And maybe the bit of nuance that I added to my application, very similar to what Natasha said, was what was the shortfall? And for me, I talked a lot about failures in starting a business and some of the challenges that I faced and how I thought the MBA would be a great sort of learning ground to sort of build some capacity in the skill gap that I felt I had. So that was me being very authentic and very true to and self-aware about some of the areas that I needed improvement. And I think that goes a very long way. So don't try to look perfect, and I think it will come out as fake. Just be yourself, and because everyone on the recruitment team, those reviewing the applications, they know we are human. They know we are not perfect, and that's why things like the MBA do exist. So just be true to yourself. Thanks.
One thing I would like to add is I know that the process is the application process is a tough process. It's a tough moment for me. It was it was not an easy period, like an easy moment of my life, but also trust. Build your story and then trust it, and believe in yourself and go, and you will see it will work out. But believe in yourself. I think it was really important for me.
Thank you guys, really appreciate that. We are going to maybe talk a little bit about why Oxford. So maybe a few of you can share why you chose Oxford and why it stood out for you in terms of maybe other schools that you maybe was exploring or applied to.
Okay. I can start with this one because I looked at a lot of business schools, and Oxford was my very, very top choice. I think the first thing for me was the diversity of the cohort, and we really don't think about it as much, but when you look at the other B schools, especially when I did, I was like, the class would be, I don't know, in the US, maybe 60% American. And when you look at Oxford, there's 59 nationalities in a program. People are coming from all around the world with so different backgrounds, whether what they're working on, what they want to do next. So you learn so much. So Oxford really stood out for me in terms of like that diversity that it brings, because you learn even more from the people you're in class with than you would learn in class. The second thing was the focus on impact and the connection to Africa. I think the impact from within model of Oxford, of SBS, you can really feel it inside the class, inside all the curriculums that you have. Like a few weekends ago, there was an impact investing training at school. There are different impact labs that you can be part of. So you can really think about how, as a future business leaders, you can incorporate impact as part of who you want to be. And it really mattered to me, as well as I was saying, to the connection of Africa that I think we touched on a bit at the beginning of this, so I won't get into too much detail on that. And the last thing, which I think I didn't realize as much until I got here, is the fact that you're being part of the broader Oxford community. And in a lot of other B school, you're part of the B school, but that's pretty much it. But here in Oxford, you're not only a business school student, but you're an Oxford student. So you meet people that are studying so many different things. Like you meet someone who's doing a DPhil in history of arts, and then they'll talk to you so passionately about what they're doing, and you learn so much from it. So it's just like an amazing environment. I think the dean it said the Disneyland yeah, it's an intellectual Disneyland, and I live it very much every day. So it's a really different experience, I think, when you actually get there in terms of like how different that program can be from the other B schools.
Love that. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I think not really re-echoing what Lorenda said, because that was so spot on. I applied to 5 business schools and then I got into the 5. Yeah. But my point is that I wanted to share that because that showed how much it took me to select which one I wanted to go to, because they were all good schools: Columbia, Duke, ESA, Oxford, London Business School. So they were all top schools, fantastic schools, right? But I think for me, it's the connectivity Oxford has to Africa. You know, when you speak to alums, when you look at the Oxford Alliance, the Oxford African Forum, when you even come to Oxford, and you look at the PhD students from Africa, some lecturing here, it's just, I feel very much at home. Which I didn't get that sense from other business schools, right? Not because there's no African Alliance or whatever in those other schools, but there's a uniqueness, and you can also see the intentionality at which Oxford is looking to put Africa as a part of this. And that meant a lot to me, because I was definitely, after school, you know, a few years, I'm going to go back to the continent. So I didn't want to lose that connection to the continent. So I wanted a place that was reminding me and has a community that is supporting in terms of how to impact Africa, how to get Africans, you know, on board as well, and how to look for drive solutions for Africans, right? So that was very important to me, and I found that in Oxford. And just like she said, the dean is always saying this is the Disneyland. When you come, you would experience it, because even from the union, you go to the Oxford Union, you listen to fantastic debates, you know, you have a card, membership card, lifetime membership card. I don't see anything like that. The first time I got there, I'm like, what's going on here? It's an actual thing. Everyone is prepared, you know, proper topics are being discussed, you know, and this is just, even the feeling for Oxford, and let's even take it outside of the class now. The structure, the colleges you get, the formal dinners, you're well-dressed, all of this meant something to me, because what Oxford is trying to position is you need to feel at home and you need to feel like you're part of this. And that I definitely got from Oxford. And so it was a thing for me. And then I'm glad I'm leaving the dream realm. But yes, so that's why I chose Oxford. And I think if you guys get in, definitely you see the same thing. It's a community and you can feel it.
Love that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the diversity of the class. Can you maybe describe some of the students that you have come across, or you know, have connected with or grown a community with?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So, in addition to what Lorinda said, the class is truly diverse. Our current cohort were about 349 from 59 nations, and it's not just that, it's also the diversity in the professional background. You see people from the healthcare sector, which I am from, people from the finance sector, from infrastructure, from digital transformation, and the likes, across all sectors really, that have unique stories and unique point of view on very, very deep topics, deep social topics, business topics. And that is really, really amazing. And that is something that attracted me to the course. The ability to have very diverse intellectual conversation, the ability to collaborate with people. Sarah, you asked a question about who have I met in the course that really struck me like deeply. I've met different people. There's a classmate who build robots that perform surgical operations. There are different people doing amazing work in food sector, energy sector, that are really trying to change the world and try to be ethical business leaders, which is something Oxford MBA really preaches. The social impact, how can we use business not to just make money, how can we use it to actually create impact and change the lives of people and improve systems, especially in low and middle income countries, which many African countries are. So that is something that is very, very, that resonates really deeply with me. And it's one of the huge reasons that I actually applied to Oxford MBA.
I think the diversity in the cohort cannot be understated, although we've talked about it quite a bit. Even on this call, everyone's got very, very unique backgrounds. People may come from the same sector, but then you speak to them and you hear they're very, very different in terms of where they're coming from. I think what that diversity has done for me is it's also challenged how I think about certain topics, because you find people who've got very different point of view on stuff. And I love a healthy intellectual debate, and would always have that as well. And then there are examples of people like Paul on this call, who has spent his professional life, almost a decade, traveling through West Africa, and he's been to places in Ghana that I'm Ghanaian and I've never been to, and he knows more about my country than I probably do. And you have conversations with people like that, and you get to know a lot about the world, and I think it really shapes your worldview. So I think that the point on diversity cannot be understated, and also just being African and being in an environment where I'm walking around and I can see Moshood walking, looking very fly, or seeing Jips or anyone else. So I think that's super important for me in the MBA program.
I love that. Okay, so we're gonna start getting the questions from our audience. But before we do, maybe a few of you can just talk about what does a day look for you in the life of an MBA program? Do you see that they're all laughing? It means that it's intense, guys.
I just want Lorinda to talk about what they were up to last night.
So our day doesn't look that good, but usually I would say that we don't have class every day. We have class 4 days a week, and that's also something I found a bit strange at the beginning, but I really see the value today now. Fridays are off, like no classes, but it's a day where you focus on your building network, your career, on extracurriculum activities, and actually it's I really like that. So I would say on average 1 class per day, 3 hours, a bit more. I personally try to go study a bit before or after the class, and then trying to join some social activity. There are a lot of activities, dinners, speakers. So I think one of the big values of the MBA, the Oxford MBA, is all these speakers and all these social activities that are organized by the school or by the university. So I try to take advantage of that as much as I can. And I don't know what you guys do, but that's my life in the MBA.
Okay. So one thing I'm just gonna say is we have similar schedule, but Oxford truly has something for everybody, a little bit of something for everybody. No matter what you're into, what your interests are, what kind of personality you are, an introvert, an extrovert, like there's always something for you to get involved with, depending on your level of energy. Like he said, we have classes 4 days a week, but beyond the class, the extracurriculars, some people have interests, some people are in debating society, some people are doing different sports. If you're into fitness, there's college gyms. If you're into drinking, there's a lot of pubs. So yeah, Oxford really has societies, clubs, and activities and events for everyone, so much that you actually have to pick and choose to not get burnt out, really. So there's a bit of something for everyone. That's really just what I would say. So there's life outside the classroom, basically. That's all I'm trying to say. And even the academic work, that it comes in peaks and troughs. There are periods that are very intense, like right now, we have assessments coming up. I was up with Lorinda last night, trying to study together. So there's areas, there are periods of downtime where you get to catch your breath and also get involved with other things, right? So really, that's what I would say about that.
Awesome. Can you someone share with me about their Kira assessment, so your online assessment as part of your application, and also a little bit about your interview as well?
Sure. I think with the Kira assessment, you generally get that after you've submitted your application. However, there are opportunities to practice. And I think what I can say is practice, practice, practice. You don't know the questions that are going to come, but if you can just practice being comfortable in front of a camera, practice, basically simulate how you would do it. So dress up, sit down, see how you will actually place your computer. Is your face showing properly? Are you audible? And just think of it as an interview. If you were doing a virtual interview and you were asked a question, how you would then answer it. I think that's my best advice for that. And then even with the actual interviews after, so the process is you submit your application, you do the Kira interview, and then you get a decision around whether or not you've moved on to the interview rounds, and then you're able to choose your interview date. And with that, I think preparing as in like any other interview around just your application, why you want to go to Oxford, why this university, why now, thinking through even just your research around the courses that you were excited about when thinking about Oxford. Really, I think no one is trying to catch you out in the interview. I think from the sense, and I'll let other panelists also give what their sense was, is that it's really about getting to know you a bit more, getting to flesh out some of the things that you maybe could not write down in a 5,000 word essay or 250 word essay. It's just to get more of your story and just to see your fit into Oxford, but also really why your motivations for why you want to do this.
Great. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, so I think I would just say that make sure you really read your application again, because yes, because everything would, move so fast at some point. So it's very important that you read your application again, because most of the pointers you have in your application are things that, you can get called out on to further explain. I remember mentioning the project, and then I was asked, how did you go about this? What exactly did you do? So it's just knowing what you've written down, and also knowing how to, I remember also I was trying to use the star. I was trying to use that in terms of how to just frame what I want to talk about, because it's also timed. So you need to make sure that you're getting out what you want to explain to whoever is at the other side of the interview, and they get it clearly. So just make sure you do that, but please read your application again, have your stories right, and yeah, be very confident when you want to talk, just say it is your story. So bring the uniqueness, let them be able to tell the passion and the uniqueness, right? So.
That's great. Thank you very much. There's a question around the focus of the program in terms of solving African challenges and solutions. Maybe we can speak a little bit about like the electives, the co-curriculums maybe that you've done, where there has been a Africa focus.
Okay, I can try a bit. It's a bit a tough question, because since we started, we took we took mainly the core classes that are like accounting, marketing, finance, and these are like not yet very specific and not. But I know that, like, I don't know who was saying that before, but that then later we will have like the opportunity to choose between a lot of electives, and the opportunity then now to deep dive on program more like a problematic linked to the African continent, and all like things that will be helping us better make us more successful later on after the MBA. But today, I think we haven't too much yet at classes that we're focusing on Africa.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, apologize.
Not yet.
So maybe you can talk a little bit around what college you guys are currently in, and you could talk a little bit about your college as well.
I can start talking this one. So I am part of the St. John's College in Oxford, which everyone is laughing because it is the richest college in Oxford. So we are very privileged. But essentially, the college is a community outside of your business school. So when you're applied to Oxford to the Oxford MBA, you're also selecting a college, which is a community within the larger university. So you have people studying other different programs, and as much as you're part of the business school, you're also part of a college. You won't have classes at your college, but it's more like your actual university community where you meet other people. They're also responsible for everything around accommodation, formal dinners that we mentioned, and some social and academic support. So you are able to build a community with your business school friends. But if you want, and it's often encouraged to also build a community with some people from your college, so then you broaden your network. So so St. John's is a very beautiful college. It is. You guys stop laughing. So it's a very pretty college. It's centrally located. I definitely recommend. They offer a lot of grants to MBA, but I would suggest I think you really need to apply early to get in. So if you're in the process of applying, I don't know, for next year, keep that in mind because they take very few MBAs, but you get a lot of benefits from being part of that college. But I'll let the other people talk about theirs.
What she's saying is that she was chosen. She's colleges. That's great though, I love that. Anyone else can speak on their college?
Yeah, so Natasha and I, we're currently at Reuben College, and Reuben is one of the newest colleges as well in Oxford. The Laidlaw Scholarship actually gets people to Reuben. So all Laidlaw scholars actually allocated the Reuben College because there's a partnership between the Laidlaw Scholarship and Reuben College. And just like Lorenda said, you actually do things outside of the business school. So the college is its own community as well, but then a broader community because you have people in undergrad, at grad level, so you can mix with other people aside just your business school and classmates here. You are at dinner, you go to your colleges for lunch if you want to. There are formal dinners there as well. I think about last week was at Reuben for Thanksgiving. So there are other events associated with colleges that are not necessarily the business school events. There's also a library. All the colleges have their own library, so you could go there, just have your own time. And there's a bar, so we do drinks at the colleges. It's really fun. Everyone can associate on the college level. And yeah, I think Natasha and we were enjoying ours very much. Reuben is a beautiful one because, like I said, it's really new. Yeah, so.
Maybe one thing I could add on this college that something that was important for me and that I'm really enjoying today is that also when you're part of a college, I'm part of St. Catherine College. You can also do sport for the college, and that's I'm doing rowing for my college. I'm playing rugby for my college, and this is also a way to meet people that are outside of the MBA. Doing different things and also building your network, and while enjoying sport with them. And for me, it's something I've been really enjoying over the last 2-3 months.
I think a quick point I want to make about the colleges, the college system is, I think it's important when choosing the college because I know some colleges do offer some sort of bursaries or scholarships to their students. So I think choosing a college, it's a very important process. I don't think there's a best college per se, but then for individual preferences or needs, there would be a type of college that will suit you. I'm in Kellogg College. It's a graduate-only college, and I'm very happy with that because I get to interact with only mature students and not with undergrads who can't hold their alcohol. And I think beyond that, you can form great communities within your college, and the formals which have come to love a lot at Oxford are organized by your colleges, your colleges, but then you can visit other colleges as well. So I mean, if you get into one college, it doesn't mean you can't experience sort of life elsewhere. If you have friends in other colleges, they can always invite you for dinners. And rumor has it that Kellogg College has some of the best food.
All right. I think we'll move on to the Q&A, given that we've got a few minutes left. Mashoud, can you speak about references and just the approach around selecting your references?
Yeah, thanks, Natasha. So references are actually very important during your application because they speak to your professional skills, your interpersonal skills. So my approach in selecting my references, the first thing I try to do is who have I worked with the longest that can speak to the level and the depth of my work. And beyond my work, can they speak to who I am as a person in terms of my leadership skills, my communication skills, also my interpersonal skills, how I manage stakeholders. So that was kind of, those were like the criteria I used to select who would be my reference for the application. And once I did that, another thing I did was to sort of like send them the link to the Oxford MBA website and also like give them some guidance on what they're looking for, what they need to speak to when they are writing their references for me, because you don't want a general reference that doesn't align with what the MBA program is looking for. So I try to provide that guidance to my references. And another advice I would give is please, we're all busy, especially if you're getting a reference who is in a high level, maybe a director who is always busy. So what you want to do is to prompt them on time, to give them enough time to write a good reference for you so that they can review over and over before you get the reference or before they submit the references for you. So those were kind of like the strategies I used in selecting my reference and following up and getting the references submitted.
Jesse, anything else on references?
I think maybe the first and key thing that you have to do is is the selection of the referee. It should be someone, as Mashoud said, is someone who knows you and can speak to your abilities. And there's this temptation that you always want to go for the big title person, but then you don't really have a strong connection, or they don't really know your work. I think for me, I remember one of my references for Saeed was a colleague of mine who was just maybe one step. We're the same title, but then in seniority in the role, he was just one step above me. But then I thought he would be a great reference because I'd worked on a couple of transactions with him, and we've spent time together outside of work, and I thought that he understood me professionally and could write a reference. That part of doing that also was I didn't want to let my direct line manager know that I had plans of leaving the firm, which is always a tricky thing. So ideally, my direct line manager would be the best person to write that, but I went against that and rather went with a colleague who I'd worked with extensively to do the reference for me. But also having the trust and the discretion of that person, I think is really important. So really, you know who you can trust within your professional network. And I think you should leverage that sort of information in getting your references done. And one other thing, which just to reiterate what Moshood said, is to get it done early, because people disappoint. Like, people are busy and you can't blame them for it. So give them advance notice. Send it several weeks in advance. Don't wait a couple of days to deadline and send it to them. Chances are they're not going to do it, because it's from what I've heard, it's quite an extensive sort of essays and reports they have to write about you. Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks, Jessie. Lorinda, we have a question here that says, noting the challenges or that are related to application and financing, what has made the degree worthwhile for you personally and how have you changed? Bear in mind, though, that we have only been here for 2.5 months, but although it feels like a year already.
Yes. Oh, thanks, Natasha. So I think personally, when I was thinking of the program, I was really trying to be clear about what I was trying to get out of it. So, I mean, we've been here for only 2 months, but I think being intentional about trying to get the most out of it is really what will make a difference. Because there are a lot of things that are happening at the same time as the business school. So, for example, I was talking about the different events happening on the weekends. There are forums, there are boot camps that are on the side of the actual business curriculum. So I'm really being intentional about thinking, okay, what am I trying to get out of this? I know I said I wanted to do more energy transition. So how beyond the business school, for example, I've been engaging with people from like the school, the environment school to see, okay, how can I benefit from their research and knowledge to like improve my personal understanding of the issues. So I think what makes it worth it is really to really engage with all the opportunities that you have and being intentional about doing so consistently and not just because you can easily get lost into the midst of just doing things, going to the next promo, going to the next party. But we're all, as you said, it's like a tough process. Like we're spending a lot of money to be here. We're also like losing time technically from like being away from work. So being really consistent and intentional about securing the opportunities that could make you the next person that you want to be is really what makes a difference for me so far. But yeah.
So there's a question here about GMAT score and what's a good GMAT score. I wish I had the answer, but there's no specific answer to it. Think of your application as this holistic process, and the GMAT score is just a piece of that pie. So ideally, you should be aiming to get really good scores there, but I don't think it's a be it or end or situation. If you feel like that's not your strongest suit, I also wrote my GMAT a couple of times. I think you need to focus on other areas of your application. Make sure that you're standing out and really shining in the other areas. So I don't think anyone here on this call can say for a fact that there's a magic number that you need to achieve on the GMAT to get in. I think everyone has got different strengths and just play to yours.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that. Jesse is right. There's really no particular score that one would say this is the score you should get, right? Obviously, the guiding framework is get as high as possible. But like you said, it's just a piece of the pie. So you need to strengthen other parts of the application. Having a great GMAT score and a weak essay would not get you in. So you need to balance everything. And the advice I always give people when they ask me what GMAT score should I get, I just tell them, go look at the website. There's an average class score on the website for the current class. If you can get anything up around that range, that's good enough. And then just make sure every other part of the essay is also strong enough for the application.
Yes, and just to echo that, there's another question on can I apply with 500? I think the main thing is also just to have conversations with the admissions committee. Reach out to Sarah as well. When Oxford says that we consider your entire application, they do consider GMAT is just one portion of your application, but you are an entire person. The GMAT score doesn't make you who you are. And I think very important to remember that and not let anything stop you from applying if you're really keen. I actually initially I had planned to apply not for this year, but for the previous year. But because of my GMAT score, I didn't apply because I basically cut myself out until I spoke to another alumni who said, no, you apply and you still will try to do rewrite, but don't not apply just because you think this already puts you on the back foot. I think we are out of time. I just, in closing, I think please know that you can reach out to Sarah, even Jessie and myself, everyone here on the panel. I'm like throwing them in that deep end. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn to answer any other questions that maybe were not covered here as well. And I hope you found this useful and hopefully you all apply.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time because I know it's precious as well. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to just email me. I'm more than happy to help, and I'm sure they'll be available on LinkedIn. Remember, they are very busy, so they might not reply straight away, but they are more than happy to help. We really appreciate your time. If you are applying in stage 4, good luck, but really happy to have that conversation if you are a little bit nervous about your application. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining, and take care and have a lovely Christmas, guys. Bye.